The sun was a burning coin in the sky, bleeding gold across the canyon walls. The desert air trembled with heat, dust swirling like whispers of ancient spirits. 12 Apache warriors stood in a proud line, their chests bare, their eyes fierce, their hearts steady as stone. Each was a legend of his own clan, a master of the hunt, a fighter of wars, and each had come for one reason: to win the hand of the tribal chief's daughter, Ayanna, the girl whose name meant eternal blossom. Ayanna stood before them, tall and calm, her long braids wrapped in feathers and turquoise beads that caught the light like tiny fires. She was not merely beautiful, she was fierce, wise, and untamed as the desert wind. Her father, Chief Nantan, had declared a challenge. Whosoever proved his strength, courage, and heart in battle would earn the right to stand beside his daughter. But among those warriors stood an outsider, a white man, in a dust-covered hat and worn leather boots. His name was Cole Walker. The others called him Ghost Rider, Desert Stray, the man with no tribe. He had wandered into their land months ago, half dead from thirst and sun. It was Ayanna who had found him, lying near the riverbed, delirious, whispering the names of ghosts. She had given him water, shade, and a chance to live. Since that day, he had worked among them silently, respectful of their customs, learning their language, never asking for more than to repay the kindness. But somewhere in those quiet days, Ayanna had begun to see something in him, a sadness, a fire, and a soul unafraid to stand alone. Now, the same man stood among the fiercest warriors of her people, a stranger in their sacred challenge. The air was thick with silence. The warrior's eyes burned into him. Chief Nantan raised his hand. "You have come to fight for my daughter," he said in a voice like thunder over stone. "But only one will walk beside her when the sun sets. The test is simple: strength, endurance, and the spirit of a warrior. The one who stands last will claim her hand." The drums began, deep, rhythmic, echoing across the cliffs. Dust rose under their feet as the challenge began. The first test was one of endurance. Running the canyon's edge, under the brutal sun, the warriors took off like arrows loosed from the bow of the earth itself. Cole ran behind them, his breath steady, his boots sinking into the sand. The sun punished him. The dust cut his throat. But he did not stop. He had known worse. The endless plains of war, the screams of men, the loneliness of losing everything. Each step was not for pride, but for something pure: gratitude. By the time the last stretch came, only 3 remained running. Nantan's strongest son, a young warrior named Koso, and the cowboy who shouldn't have survived. When they reached the canyon's end, Cole stumbled to his knees, gasping, drenched in sweat. Koso glared at him. "You run well for a man without a tribe," he said bitterly. Cole wiped the dust from his mouth. "Maybe a man's tribe ain't where he's born," he said. "Maybe it's where he chooses to stand." The second test was combat. Staff against staff. Each warrior fought in turn. The ground thundered with their strikes. The air snapped with the sound of wood clashing. Cole stepped forward when his turn came. Facing a warrior twice his size, he took hit after hit, barely holding his ground, but he refused to fall. Blood ran from his lip, his knuckles bruised, yet his eyes burned with defiance. When the fight ended, he was the only outsider still standing. Ayanna watched him silently. Around her, the tribe murmured, some in awe, others in anger. She could feel her father's eyes on her, questioning what she saw in that man. But her heart already knew. By the final trial, a test of courage, 12 had become 3. Kuso, another warrior named Dene, and Cole. They were taken to the sacred pit where fire burned at its heart. Each had to walk barefoot across the circle, carrying a burning brand to prove fear did not live in his soul. Koso walked first, his face stone, his steps sure. Dene followed, his body trembling, but he made it across. Then Cole stepped forward. The heat seared his skin. The flames roared around him. The crowd shouted, "He is not one of us." But Ayanna's eyes never left him. Cole walked slow, steady. Each step a battle. When he reached the end, the brand still burned in his hand. He thrust it into the sand and stood silent, his eyes meeting Ayanna's across the fire. Chief Nantan rose. "It is done," he declared. 12 warriors came for my daughter's hand, but only 3 have proven worthy. He turned to Ayanna. Now she will choose. The desert fell silent again. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Ayanna stepped forward, her eyes passing over the 2 proud warriors of her tribe. Men of strength, heritage, and honor. Then, slowly, she turned to the cowboy. The man who had no blood ties, no lineage, no right to stand there. Her gaze softened, but her voice was strong. "My heart chooses not the mightiest hand," she said, "but the one that held fire and did not let it fall." She pointed at Cole. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The warriors shifted, stunned. The chief's eyes widened, and for a long moment, no one spoke. The wind picked up again, swirling dust between them. Cole stood motionless, hat in hand, his heart pounding. "Ma'am," he whispered, his voice raw. "You sure?" Ayanna smiled, small, fierce, and unyielding. "The spirits know my choice," she said. "You came as a stranger, you stand as a warrior." And with that, the drums began again. Not for battle, but for union. The desert sun began to fall, painting the sky in gold and crimson. Cole looked around at the tribe, then at Ayanna, realizing that sometimes the greatest battles are not fought with weapons, but with the heart.